What could you do with access to $250,000 just by the next month? And on top of that, imagine paying no interest on this $250,000 at all. What could you do with that? Could you start, grow, or scale your company, break through some previous plateaus, leave your 9 to 5, or even would you be able to use that to invest more? Have money so you'll stop losing out on deals? If the answer to at least one of these questions was yes, then it's time to make this a reality. Because on this video, I'm going to break down how to get $250,000 in 0% interest for your business just in the next 30 days. I'm going to show you how to qualify for this funding, all the steps needed, and I'm going to show you 8 different banks that I know for a fact verified that will give you access to 25 to 50K plus so we can build out a 250K funding strategy right here today. Well, buckle in because this is the best video on YouTube on how to get $250,000 in 0% funding for your business. Now let's get to it. $250,000 at 0% interest in 30 days. So if you aren't aware, what is 0% business funding and how can I get access to that much money without paying interest on it? Well, there's a period that you won't pay interest. So anytime you hear 0% interest business funding, is select 0% business credit cards or business credit cards that offer a 0% APR period, which normally lasts 12 months, but it can range anywhere from 6 to 18 months, depending on the card and bank that you select. So you must choose wisely. Brand new businesses with $0 in revenue, normally it's going to take you a lot longer to hit 250K. So this is not for brand new businesses. And if your personal credit is not in line, this is not for you either. As far as the time period, yes, you can get 250K, but it's not going to be in 30 days, more than likely. I mean, I guess technically it's possible, but I'm telling you, there's like 5 of y'all out there right now that will be able to pull this off. For the most part, it's not going to happen. Okay. And I'm talking about 0% interest business credit cards because you will never get a 0% interest period or anything on any business line of credit or any business loan. Now let's set some expectations up front. Number one, I've already went into this, but just to let you know, everyone does not qualify for this amount of funding. You must qualify to get $250,000 within 30 days. I am not claiming that anyone watching this video will be able to pull off such a thing. Now, if you don't meet the maximum requirements to hit $250,000 in 30 days, it's okay because your expectation will be more around 50 to 150K. That's where I would say most people are, but there are plenty of people watching my videos right now that do qualify for the full 250K in 30 days or less. And if you're wondering why is that the case? Why can't I get 250K too, Colin? Well, let's break it down. Let's break down the math and make this actually make sense. So if you were able to get access to 250K in just 30 days, 250K, we can look at it 2 different ways. That's going to be 10 different banks that give you at least 25K, right? A 25K approval. Or you would have to have 5 banks that give you at least a 50K approval. Of course, it could mix and match in between that, but those are just averages, right? The problem is that you are not going to get 10 different banks to give you 25K in approvals or 5 banks that's going to give you 50K in approvals if everything is not all the way 100% on point. This is what people are scared to tell you, but I'm not, because I'm here to make sure that you know exactly what you need to do to get funding and what the expectations are. And I'm not here to sell you a dream. I don't have to do that because I'm not here just for views. See, a lot of people that make YouTube videos, they're just going off of YouTube videos that they've watched as well. They haven't actually experienced going through and working with hundreds of people and getting them approved for funding. And they don't have the funding themselves. They don't have a stack like this just sitting around, on their desk. And that's not all my business credit cards. Therefore, they just say a bunch of things that are simply not true. But fortunately for me, that's not the case. Now that we got that out the way, let's talk about what the requirements actually are. We're going to break it down on the personal side and the business side to see where you measure up and how you can get access to 250K. Now, on the personal credit side, you need to have at least a 750. I don't want to see a 749, anything under that at all. But really, 800 plus is really where you want to be at. To be real, we really could just start at 800. And for some of you guys, you may be thinking an 800 score. I know I used to think like that too. It's really not that deep. Once you have credit history, you got the amount of revolving accounts, no negatives or anything like that, you're going to have an 800 score. It's really just a matter of time if you have everything built in your foundation. And one of the biggest factors is utilization. If you think you're going to get 250K and 0% funding on the business side and your utilization is at like 27% or 30%, I would even go with 15%. You got another thing coming. I'm telling you, you're going to want single digit utilization because you're trying to show the banks that I'm using this money to grow my business. I don't need it to survive. You're going to look like a survivor, like you're just hanging on barely by threads if you already have high utilization. Because the point is, most people don't realize this. When you're going for funding from the banks, you want to look like you don't need it. Okay. The point is not to come in looking like you need it. That's when they don't borrow to you, right? That's kind of how it works with the banks. With on the personal side, if you're lending to your relatives or something like that, you're giving them money because you know that they need it. The banks are the opposite. They only give money to applicants who on the surface don't even look like they need the money. And that's because banks are giving you money to grow and expand, not to just simply get you to float by or to get you to pay bills and things like that. You get it? So that's why you need that utilization. Now, as far as credit history, 5+ years, this is going to put you in the absolute best shape possible. You could go down to 3 years. I've actually seen 250K at 3 years. I'll give you that. But for the most part, 5+ years. Okay. Highest limit on your cards can be as low as 10K, but I wouldn't go a cent under that. And really a 25K plus limit is going to be better. Now, if you may say, Colin, I have a 21K limit with Citibank or with Chase or something. Does that work? Yeah. Okay. I'm just giving you a framework of what you can expect that you actually need to get approved for this amount of funding based on what I know the banks are looking for and based on actual experience. And then no negatives. I'm telling you, no negatives. Let's not even spend too much time talking about it. Just, you don't want any negatives. Okay. Now let's talk about what you need on the business side. First things first, this is not going to be for the newer business owners that's just started. You haven't even started an LLC, or you have, but it's been less than a year. You haven't generated any revenue. Then again, 250K at 0% is probably out of your reach for the most part. For the most part, there are exceptions, but for the most part, it's probably out of reach. You more can expect 50 to 150K. Now, let's talk about liquidity. You really want 10K plus in cash available. Really, I'd say a lot more, 20, even upwards to 50K in cash in liquidity available so that you can show the banks that you have money. Again, remember, the banks like to lend to applicants that don't look like they need money. And what's the best way to show that you don't look like you need money? By actually having money, So that's how you do it. And having this much liquidity, I'm telling you, is going to help with this strategy tremendously. Business revenue on the low end, 15, but on the higher end, 25K plus monthly revenue that you're generating. Think about it like this. If you're generating, say, 20K a month, you're dang near at $250,000 annually. So it's going to be a lot easier to get $250,000 in funding on the business side because you make that much money. So again, when you're not in that place yet, it's a lot harder to get those high limit approvals from the banks. And I know it's a shell shock to a lot of you guys. You're going to think, hey, this is one of those, let me get a second opinion type thing. This person said I can get 350K with no docs, no revenue, no this. Hey, this is what I have for you. Try it. Do it yourself and then report back here. Let me know if it works out for you. I can promise you it's not, but hey, go ahead and try it for yourself if you want to. Business age, I really like to see 3+ years in business. Two years is fine, but normally 3+ years in business is going to put you in a prime position. Now, sometimes you can do an age corp that's going to help with the business age, but just know that every bank does not take age corp, if you know what that is. And you should already have some established relationships with major banks. What is a major bank? We'll talk about that here shortly. But for the most part, you do want an established, or you want several established relationships with banks prior to going for funding. It is going to help you out tremendously when it comes down to the timeline if you're looking to get this thing done in 30 days or less. Now, I'm going to give you 3 different steps when it comes to getting access to this 250K at 0% interest in 30 days. You ready? Let's go. So step number 1 is going to be choosing a tier 1 bank, aka a major bank, and also positioning your personal credit. This is going to be week 1 in a 30-day process for getting access to 250K in funding in 30 days. The reason why this is important and the bank is everything because most banks are not willing to lend high limit funding, which I would consider in this case 25K plus, unless you've had at least a year of a relationship with them. And we don't have a year, right? We're trying to get this done in 30 days. So this is important to note. And since most people do not understand funding, they think it's as simple as just choosing any bank and just applying. In their minds, when you don't know the nuance of a subject, you think it's way easier than what it is. And a lot of times people think it's that easy. Or I can just apply online. And I see the applications. People ask me, people have been sending me things in the mail. I know if I apply, I would get it. No, you're not going to get that amount. More times than not, an average limit really on a business credit card is like 5 to 15K, and then some banks will even give you 3K. So that is not the case. You can't just apply to any bank you want to and get the results that you're looking for. Even if it's a popular bank like American Express, it does not mean they're going to give you a high limit on a business credit card. So then what is a tier 1 bank? I would consider for this to be any bank that has the possibility of giving you a 25K business credit card. Now, here are just some of the tier 1 banks. This is not the 8 banks that I was telling you about earlier. That will be a little bit later on. But I've personally seen clients get 25K plus from the following banks: Chase, American Express, Bank of America, Citizens Bank, Key Bank, US Bank, First Citizens Bank, not to be confused with Citizens Bank, PNC Bank, Fifth Third Bank, Truist, and Wells Fargo. This is just to name a few. There are some smaller banks and credit unions that would fit this as well. And this is, again, not the 8 banks. That's coming a little bit later on. Remember, these banks must have a location in the state that you do business in, for the most part, for you to apply and get approved for this high limit funding. You can go to bankbranchlocator.com, and there are other sites. This is just the one that I use the most. And you could choose your state to see what banks are in your area. Also, at this point, you want to position your personal credit for high limit funding too as well. That can include, but not limited to, credit limit increases, lower your utilization, removing an authorized user that could be holding you back from having a lower utilization, or anything that will put you closer to exactly what we stated earlier as far as what you need on a personal profile. Now, step 2, this is going to be starting or improving your relationships with these tier 1 banks prior to applying for funding. This is going to be in week 1 through 3. This is very important that you structure it this way, by the way. I've covered this a few times, but I have to mention it at least one more time. It is a common misconception that you can apply for funding without building a relationship. And for most banks, that's just not the case. Most banks do not like giving you money if they don't know you at all and you've never had a business checking account with them or any other products with them. Just think about the word relationship in banking relationships. Just like any relationship, either a friendship or an intimate relationship, you're going to get to know that person first before you proceed or before trust is grown, right? Outside, I guess a few exceptions, but those aren't the type of banks you normally want to go to, right? I mean, it depends. Okay. I'm getting beside myself a little bit, but you understand what I'm saying. For the most part, you want to build that relationship first before you apply for funding, before you go the base, right? Or what they call it in dating. You get it. You do I have to keep going here? You get the analogy, right? Now you may be saying, what is growing a relationship though? How do I start this relationship, Colin? Well, here's how you do it. Step number one. So we got steps inside of the steps, but step number one is going to be to open a business checking account. Step number two is going to be funding the business checking account with funds. But how much cash that you put in your business checking account will more than likely affect your approval. Banks classify how much cash that you have in your business checking account with something that's called bank ratings. Now, here are the bank ratings on screen. However, I'm not going to go through all of them, but you see them right here on screen, right? But I will say this about bank ratings. Normally, you're going to need at least a low 5 bank rating to get access to the most amount of funding with that bank. It does depend on the bank, but just a good rule of thumb is to at least have low 5, which means having at least 10K in that business checking account prior to funding. Now, once you have that out the way, step 3 is going to be applying for other products within that bank. Keep in mind, this is optional. However, it does increase your chances drastically of getting approved and getting approved with a higher limit. And what is additional products? Well, you have a merchant account that's like top on the list. You have an auto loan. You have a personal checking and savings account, and then you have personal loans, so on and so forth. And then you're going to create activity and just wait until the proper time that you need to wait for each individual bank that you go to. Now, here's where it gets juicy. It's time to go. It's time to apply. Step 3. How do you actually apply once you've done these steps? So it's 3 different levels to applying for funding. You have online. Online, you go to the bank's website if they have an online application. Some don't. We're starting to see more banks pull this off of their website, but it is an option for still a lot of banks, right? You're going to choose what 0% business credit card that you want and then fill out the application and boom, you've applied. A lot of times you get an instant approval. Sometimes you get we need to check this out and then we'll get right back with you in 1 to 7 business days. It really depends on the bank. And then sometimes you're going to get a denial, right? But when you apply online, that's pretty much what you're going to see, one of those 3 options. But that was just level 1. Level 2 was going in a branch. And by the way, each level is better than the other. It's better to have a business relationship manager. We're going to cover that in a second. Then going in a branch, and going in a branch is a lot of times a lot better than applying online. Depends on the bank though. So for level 2, going in a branch, you want to go to a local branch in your area if that bank has one. You want to deal with a banker that you've built some rapport with, preferably. You want to have your data points ready, fill out the application, and boom, you've applied. Congratulations. And then here's my favorite. It's applying with a business relationship manager. This oftentimes is a cheat code when it comes to applying for business funding because of multiple reasons. You have business relationship managers that normally can request for a higher limit or a limit increase. Normally they can skip some steps when it comes to how long you have to have a relationship with that bank before applying. And where there's banks that you have to go in branch to open an account or go in a branch to apply, we can do this right directly just via email. And that's why for all the tier 1 banks that I mentioned earlier, we do have a business relationship manager for them. And the cool part is that they normally only work with businesses that are at least generating $1 million in revenue. But my clients don't have to worry about that. They can just use all of my connections. And if that's you and you want to leverage my connections and everything that you see here so far, you want us to actually work on this for you, remove inquiries, set you up a game plan, and then help you apply with funding using our business relationship managers, just go ahead and hit the link down below and schedule a call with me or my team. But either way, that's why I give access to business relationship managers for all of our clients, because you get higher approval rates a lot of times and then you get higher limits. And when you use level 1 or level 2 in a branch or online, a lot of times you're at the mercy of the algorithm to just spit out whatever you put in. So you're not having someone manually look over your profile, manually look over your application. And that's why a lot of times you don't get as good results as you would if you use a business relationship manager. Here it is. This is what you've been waiting for. This is the sample funding strategy of the 8 banks that I would go to for a business owner. Say if you lived in Ohio, these are some of the top banks that I would go to that I know will give you at least a 25K limit that will make it a lot easier to get to your 250K goal. And you can do all this in less than 30 days. Bank number one, a lot of you guys are not surprised, but it's going to be Chase Bank. So with Chase Bank, the limit expectations can be 25 to 50K, but really it can go a lot higher than that. We've gotten clients approved for 100K plus just with Chase, but I'm just being conservative here just in case you don't have access to a relationship manager and you don't know the things that we know, to be frank with you. But they normally pull from Experian, and a lot of times they will pull a TransUnion too as well, or a combination of both, so just be aware. So bank number 2 is going to be Key Bank. Normally they do pull from Equifax, but that is subject to change. And the limit expectations with them could be 25 to 50K. Like I'll show you a few clients that got at least 50K with Key Bank. Bank number 3 is Citizens Bank, which normally soft pulls from either Experian or Equifax, but of course that is subject to change. Limit expectations could be anywhere from 35 to 50K, and I'll show you some 50K approvals on the screen right now. Boom. So now you're going to go to American Express. That's going to be anywhere from a 25 to 50K approval too as well. And they normally do a soft pull if you have an account with them. Not Equifax. Normally it's going to be with Experian. Okay. And again, a soft pull, but only if you already have a previous account or a personal credit card with American Express, which I would highly recommend that you do so. Now, bank number 5 is going to be US Bank. So with US Bank, it can be Equifax that they pull, but I mostly see TransUnion. But I just had a client that applied and got approved for US Bank Business Credit Card, and she got pulled with Equifax. So it definitely is possible depending on where you're located. And the limit expectations, again, anywhere from 25 to 50K when done right, when you set everything up properly, use the right relationship manager and everything. And I will show a few 50K approvals on the screen right now. Bank number 6 is going to be Truist. Normally I see them pull from Equifax, subject to change. I know I've said that like 7 times, but just throwing it out there. Limit expectations, again, 25 to 50K. And I'll put some of the approvals on screen as well. Bank number 7, Bank of America. Bank of America normally pulls TransUnion, but I have seen Equifax before. Again, 25 to 50K on limit expectations when everything is done properly and you have the right relationship. And lastly, PNC Bank. PNC Bank normally pulls Experian, but I have seen them pull a soft pull with Equifax before, but that was for a business line of credit. But either way, just letting you know, and limit expectations again, 25 to 50K plus when everything is done properly. Now, this is not some type of exhaustive list of banks that will give you a 25K plus limit. And this is why we customize this for all of our clients. And if you'd like to set up a call to see what your list would be for high limit funding, you can go ahead and use the link down below and schedule a call with me and my team. Now let's recap and go in even more detail on your week by week strategy. Week number 1, open your business checking accounts. You can use Chase, KeyBank, US Bank, PNC, Truist, and Bank of America. And if you already have a relationship with these banks, it's going to make it a lot easier, but I'm just giving you this list as an example. Now, weeks really 1 through 3, I put 2 through 3 here, but really 1 through 3 because the just opening business checking account shouldn't take a full week. So week 1 through 3, create activity with banks to build relationships and deposit money, create transactions, so on and so forth. In week 4, apply for funding, preferably through a business relationship manager, but of course, it can be online or in the branch. And boom, there it is. That's how you get access to $250,000 at 0% interest in 30 days or less. Now go ahead and watch this video on the screen on how to extend your 0% interest up to 36 months, because you're going to need it after that 0%, the initial 0% interest period ends.